what I was thinking today is that we'd feel for how the legs relate to the spine, right? So the spine as the core of our structures, we're trying to release the spine, and there's many, many, many ways to get there. So my idea today is let's go from the legs to the spine and just play with that and see how it goes. Okay, so why don't you rest back? We'll start with Shavasana. Just take a moment to rest. So in this approach, we think about the skull as being the top of the spine. So let's say that we can feel the very top of the spine resting into the ground. So you're getting lots of feedback from the ground, enticement from the ground to let go and drop. And of course, the shape of the skull is such that it curves into the ground. And as we feel the shape of the skull resting deeply into the ground, we can actually sense the neck curving gently, elegantly away from the floor. And it can be useful to remember and try to sense where the neck actually starts, the very first cervical vertebra, which is at about the level of your ear holes. Right? So we actually feel the curve of the skull resting into the ground, and that gives the body insight, information about feeling the curve of the neck away from the ground. The next portion of the spine is your thoracic. It matches the curve of your skull. So it rests into the ground. And if you keep feeling your way, journeying your way downwards, the next curve is at the back of your waist. That's your lumbar spine. It mirrors your neck curve. Gently curving, easing away from the floor. And then next is your sacrum, right? That middle piece in the pelvis. It goes along with the skull and the thoracic curve into the floor. And if you continue to sense your way all the way to the end of the spine, the sacral curve just tails off into and out of the tail itself. So the spine is built like a wave. It's built like rolling hills. It has the ability to undulate, curve of the skull down, neck up and away, thoracic resting down, lumbar up and away, sacrum down into the floor, and then literally tailing off through the tail. As you breathe, you might feel your spine gently responding. Take a few minutes on your own. Feel the spine. Imagine it in any way that you like. If one of the nature images is attractive to you, maybe you want to go there. Feel your breathing. Just let any of these suggestions become yours and a way to drop deeper inwards. I'm going to be silent for a few minutes here. If you think you want a longer Shavasana, please push pause. Take a few more breaths and then begin to move in your own way. Maybe just notice any contact between your spine and the ground, any sense of movement in your spine as you start to shift around and listen to what your body needs. And if the spine seems a bit elusive, just notice the contact between the back of your torso and the back of your skull and the ground. It will change. It will change as you change the position of your legs. Yeah. It will change as you rock. Skull, neck, the thoracic, which is so long, takes up your entire upper back. It's the length of the back of your rib cage. Your lumbar spine, the back of the waist. Your sacrum, perhaps the most elusive, your tail. So what I thought we would do is some of the continuous movement, somewhat freewheeling movements for the legs. The vast majority of these, the legs are up in the air, which means you might want to put a bolster underneath the pelvis. If you place a bolster underneath the pelvis, yeah, thanks, Sue. The bolster generally goes underneath the pelvis and behind the waist, right? But the best way to tell if you've got it in the right place is to lie back on it, yeah? And to put your legs up in the air and just move them around a bit and simply ask yourself if you're comfortable. And if you're not comfortable, shift the bolster. If you don't have a yoga bolster at home, you can use a rolled up blanket, you can use a cushion from your couch or from a chair, okay? Maybe 2 bed pillows, something like that. All right, so here's a few suggestions to start with. Yeah, there's the one where we think of sliding the feet on the ceiling. Right, so the legs are long-ish. Right, you can have a little bend in the legs. And you can always experiment with bending the knees a little more, lengthening them a little more. All right, so a few things you're interested in feeling. Right, so you're interested in feeling the pelvis resting into the bolster. Right, so whatever speed you're moving at, you want to sense that the pelvis is moving into the ground or moving into the bolster. Of course, at any time you can put your feet on the floor and have a rest. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now I just want to mention one other thing about the legs in the air. The distance between the legs can vary, right? So you can do a very tiny movement, right? And the leg that's closer tends to be the one where you feel the back of the leg stretching, right? So that's one of the advantages of this particular posture. You can let the legs come farther apart, but it's important that you keep attending to the sense of restfulness in the back of the pelvis. Actually, perhaps through the entire length of the back of the torso. All right? So you can decide how fast, how far apart the legs go, and of course, when you take a little break. Right? The resting piece is hugely important. All right. Another pattern is the one that Sue started to do, which is legs wide and crossing. Yeah, and you can always have the arms mirror the legs. Now this one has many wonderful options. Right? So you can go at any speed, taking your legs wide and crossing, legs and arms wide and crossing. You can cross and bend your knees and bend your elbows. Right? So you get a little kind of curled up fetal shape. Mm-hmm. You might even want to go with a breath rhythm, which would be inhale wide, exhale cross. And again, the breath rhythm can be whatever speed you like. Slow, moderate, fast. Mm-hmm. Good. Another really lovely basic movement of the legs, freewheeling movement, is one we call wide treading water. Yeah, that's it. So the leg that goes wide actually entices your body to fall in that direction. Yeah. So the leg falls wide to one side and wide to the other side. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The leg that's wide and enticing your body to fall in one direction, that leg might even touch the floor. Doesn't have to, but it might. Yeah. Again, feel your pelvis in contact, shifting, moving. You know, feel the effect through your whole torso or your whole spine. Right? And please just take time to rest. You can say, what am I doing when I come to rest? I'm feeling the floor with my body. Maybe you're noticing the spine again. I feel my head, my neck, my thoracic spine, my lumbar, my sacrum. I feel my breathing. Sometimes what I do in these restful moments during practice is I just notice the rate of my breathing after continuous movement, and I just wait until I feel my breath settle completely into what I feel is a restful, easy rhythm before I move again. That's just another option. And the last freewheeling movement we've done in a few of the other practices, and that's shaking the legs, right? And again, this is a movement you might want to do only with the legs, but you could do with both the legs and the arms. Yeah. So you could shake and shake and shake and shake and shake and shake as long as you possibly can comfortably, and shake maybe one or two more times, and then let the body rest. Yeah, it can be fun to thump the feet right down onto the ground. Yeah, good. Yeah, and you might want to shake and rest a few times. I think it's quite nice to notice the feeling of grounding when you rest after shaking. So what I'd suggest is that you just take a moment or two on your own with this little repertoire. I'll repeat the patterns again. Resting is an important part of the repertoire. Of course, there's the shaking that you've just been doing. There's sliding the feet on the ceiling as if you're kind of walking on the ceiling. There's wide and crossing. And then there's that kind of wide, tippy, treading water. You don't have to do all of them, of course. You know, you might have one that you feel your body really needs or wants at this moment. So just take a little bit of time and let yourself work with and move with and rest with any of these and anything else you need right now. Please stay with feeling. Right. Just feeling the motion in your body. More specifically, any movement in the spine. Any experience of your pelvis resting. And when you rest, the movement of your breathing. Before we change orientations, I suggest if you are up on a bolster, maybe take the bolster away. Give yourself a breath or two to simply allow your pelvis to rest more directly into the floor. And then maybe do a twist. So it could be the wide-legged windshield wiper-like twist that we do sometimes with the feet on the floor. Yeah, that one, Eden, that's right. Or it could be little boat twist, or any other twist that you enjoy. Please just remember, whatever twist you're doing, to give yourself that moment where you feel the legs as truly heavy, that they've completed their arrival into the twist. And if you find it useful, keep tracking the relationship between the pelvis and the floor. So clearly, as you come through the middle, the whole back of the pelvis has the opportunity to settle. And as you rest in your twist, you're resting through the side of the pelvis. And this awareness of the pelvis resting is the cue to you maybe guiding your awareness all the way through your spine, up towards your skull. Yeah, feeling movement and change and release. Yeah, certainly change your legs and do another twist variation, such as little boat with long legs. That's it. And the only other posture you might want to slide in here is bridge pose. Bridge pose, yeah. Right, so bridge pose, allowing you to massage your way up and down your spine a few times. Feet well planted, feet secure, so that you can roll up and roll down. And you decide what your partner pose with bridge pose is. Maybe it's little boat, maybe it's a twist. Just remember to notice your skull once in a while. Of course, because you're still on the ground, the skull can become heavier, aiding you in the release of your neck and your upper spine. So start to finish off what you're doing in this orientation. If you have another side for your twist, give yourself that time. If there was one more bridge pose you wanted to do, please give yourself time to do that. As always, notice your breathing. Feeling of breathing, that's the internal motion in the body. And then before we shift to cat pose, just give yourself 2, 3 breaths in any position that you deem comfortable. If you want to rest here for a longer period of time, just hit pause. If you're ready to move on, please come to cat pose. So why don't we start out with just a little bit of variation in the feet in cat pose. Yeah, so a little bit of toes turned under, so that as you come back towards child's pose, when you're doming, you begin to release the toes, the bottom of the foot, into the Achilles tendon, and alternate toes turned under with resting on the top of the foot, which of course gives your shins and the front of the ankle and the whole front of the foot the opportunity to let go. So use the weight of your body and the undulation of your spine to help you in releasing any tension in your feet. Now, another way to work with the toes turned under in cat pose is to reach one leg back and let the toes be turned under in that reaching leg. Okay? So you can do a variety of things. You can simply reach the heel back and really feel your calf beginning to let go. And you can alternate between something like bending your knee and letting it rest on the ground, and easing back through that heel. You can leave the leg long and explore the undulation of the spine in cat pose. And one other little option is to circle around on the ball of the foot, or for some of us it feels like circling the heel in space. And this certainly releases the lower leg and the foot, but also entices movement through the whole leg. You'll feel your pelvis moving a bit with this circling. And as with any circling, make sure you switch directions at some point. Yeah. Rest in child's pose when you feel you'd like a little bit of a quiet moment just to notice your breathing. Child's pose is beautiful for feeling the elegant, rounded curve of the spine, the flexion of the spine. If we notice the pelvis resting in child's pose and the weight of the skull resting in child's pose, then we're aiding the entire spine in releasing. Breathe in, breathe out and feel the pelvis rest. Breathe in, breathe out and feel the pelvis and the skull rest. When you're ready, perhaps try lengthening the other leg behind you in cat pose. I'll describe the options and you can use the ones that are best for you. So there's simply reaching back through the heel, and then bending the knee until the leg gently touches the floor. And you can go back and forth, lengthen the leg, which actually will lengthen your lower spine. Bend the leg, soften the leg. You can reach the leg back and undulate your spine in cat pose. It can be fun to try to imagine that the leg is a continuation of your spine, right? To make sense of the body in that way. My leg is a continuation of my tail, or is my tail. Right? And then there's all those little circling movements. I'm circling around on the ball of the foot, or it's the heel that's circling in space, one way and then the other way. Good. Then again, I'd suggest maybe you bring the leg back underneath so it's just parallel to the other leg, and work with simple cat pose undulations of your spine, head to tail. Yeah, you may want to change your feet again, toes turned under or on the top of the foot. And there's always child's pose to just rest and breathe. Again, if you're in child's pose, if the pelvis falls on the exhalation, if there's that sense of weight dropping, the pelvis is inviting the lower spine to lengthen. If the head falls, the weight of the head resting and grounding, invites the neck, and perhaps all the way deep down into your thoracic spine, invites release, elongation, movement. Take a few more breaths in your child's pose. And then once you feel ready to start to make your way to standing, either work with down dog for a moment or the standing forward bend. Take a few breaths. Really let the weight of the head fall towards the ground in either of those forward bends. Forward bending in down dog or the standing forward bend. And particularly if you're in down dog, adjust your feet so you feel like there's this sense, oh yeah, I can rest in the direction of the floor through my heels, or I can truly rest into the floor through my heels. Right? The more stable I am through my feet and my legs, the more release in the lower spine. The more stable I am through my feet and my legs, the easier it is to drop the head and let the upper spine let go. When you're ready, roll up. Make sure your head is absolutely last. once you're standing, why don't we do a few of the very simple movements of the shoulder girdle and arms, just to make sure this area gets a little bit of attention. So let's start with circling. Circle your shoulders back and forward. One of the ideas here is that the movement of the shoulder circling entices the spine into motion. Right? So it's as if the shoulder speaks to the spine. Yeah. The same action can be led, of course, with the elbow. Yeah. Forward, backward. One of my colleagues says, transfer the movement from one elbow to the other through your spine. Yeah? So it's information, it's dialogue through the body. Yeah, try the arm as leading the arm long, or it feels like your fingertips are leading. Yeah. Be interested in the comfort of your neck. You know, what's more comfortable for your neck? Do you want to turn with the arm? Do you want to leave your neck and head in the middle? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Maybe try a little bit of lifting and dropping as well. So shoulders, elbows, arm. Right? So you're using the weight of the bones in the arms really to release your shoulders and your upper spine. Yeah, we tend to get a real wobble in the head. It feels great, yeah, very bubbly. Yeah. One of my favorite things to feel is how can I feel my feet grounding because I drop the arms. Yeah, so there's that arm to upper spine bubble connection. There's the dropping the arm to the grounding foot connection. And all of that actually happens through the spine. Yeah. Great. All right. All right, let's take a moment just for the head and neck, the very, very upper spine. So easy turning of the head from side to side. A little bit of ear to the shoulder, ear to the shoulder. Maybe take yourself from the ear towards one shoulder, drop your head or circle your head down through the middle. So let flexion happen in your neck. And then find the other side. Yeah. Make a little U shape through the middle. Find the other side. Mm-hmm. Good. And then if you'd like to do a full circle, just gently glance at the ceiling when you feel like you're in a mini back bend. The head is quite heavy as you come forward, releasing the back of the neck, releasing all the way down, even into the thoracic spine. And then the head is light, easy, neck is comfortable as you look up towards the ceiling. Good. All right. Once you've gone in both directions, maybe just stand for a moment in mountain pose, in Tadasana. All right, so here's a little leg to spine connection in Tadasana. And close your eyes if you like, leave your eyes open. Breathe in. As you breathe out, feel your pelvis fall into your legs fall into the feet fall into the floor. Right? So simple grounding. I breathe in, I breathe out, and my pelvis, my legs, my feet rest. Okay? And then there's a potential rebound in the upper spine. I don't have to pull up. The body just almost rests upwards. Right? So very simply, I breathe in, I breathe out, my pelvis, my legs, my feet rest, and everything from the pelvis, the top of the pelvis upwards, rebounds up. My head may feel light. The split, if you like, is at the very top of the pelvis. Right? So the exhalation takes you down from the rim of the pelvis, down to the feet, and then allows the spine to just rise up gently from the top of the pelvis up to the top of the head. Yeah, it's a two-way release on the exhalation. Okay, take another few breaths. And then just gently open your eyes and shake your limbs a little. Okay. Let's do one more big pose. Oh, I'm out of the camera line. Okay. Let's do one more big pose. Let's do lunge. So if you'd come to the front of your mat. All right, so I guess I'll go over here to demonstrate. All you're going to do, that's it, Eden. You're just going to drop forward. So into the pose we call Uttanasana. Bend your knees enough so that you feel you've got a secure connection between your fingers or your hands on the floor, and then lengthen one leg back. Okay? And let yourself come back into the long runner's lunge, which will mean, if you're comfortable, that the knee is on the ground, the back knee is on the ground. Yeah. Okay. And there is that moving version of runner's lunge, which is, you rest back a little bit and you rest forward a little bit. I rock my weight towards the back leg. I rock my weight towards the front leg. Yeah, and you can be on the top of the foot, the back foot, or you can have your toes turned under. The front heel stays in contact with the ground when you are in the lunge. Very important. When you are in the lunge, when the weight is going through the front leg, the front heel is resting into the ground. And if that's not true for you, just maybe adjust your front foot forward a little bit. Okay? All right. If you'd like to stay in the lunge, what feels like the more typical lunge for a breath or two, you can think about the pelvis dropping. Right? So I might do something like this. Breathe in. Breathe out, my pelvis rests. Breathe in. Breathe out, my pelvis rests. And then, give yourself a little bit of a relief, rock back and forward a few more times. Now, when you want to come out of lunge, one way is to turn the back toes under, and you literally push off or spring off of those toes so that the leg will come forward and underneath you. That's it. Yeah. And then roll up, head last. Roll up, take a breath or two. Can be really fun to just stand in Tadasana and notice if the two sides feel any different from one another. The two legs, the two sides of the pelvis. Take a breath or two. Right. And then just simply begin to roll down again and enter lunge on the other side. All right, so I want to make sure my knees are bent enough so that I can really use my hands on the floor and reach the leg back. That's it. So first we start by the rocking, with the rocking back and forth. In some ways that's to lubricate your hip sockets and get your body used to the possibility of lunge. Right? So the weight shifts back, the weight shifts forward. Good. When I feel like being in lunge for a breath or two, I stay there, and with each exhalation, I remind myself to rest the pelvis or drop the pelvis weight. How long you stay is up to you. One breath is fantastic. Of course, you can stay longer. And then the counter movement is the rocking. When you're ready to come out of lunge on this side, again, turn the back toes under. Right? The toes are designed to do this. You spring off the toes, they come forward. Yeah, the whole leg follows. Yeah. And then remind yourself to leave that head very heavy to facilitate the release of the upper spine as you roll up. Great. So what I suggest is if you'd like to go through lunge pose again on your own, again, pause the tape, and you can do lunge again on your own. You certainly can come upright with the body. You want to demonstrate for a moment just a lunge with the torso upright, and maybe Sue, you can demonstrate with the torso forward as you were doing, just a forward bend. Yeah, so if you bring the torso upright, it's very important to remember that the back of the pelvis remains heavy and comfortable, no tension at all in the low back. And if you feel any compression or tension in your low back when you bring the torso upright, you can come back towards this lovely forward bending lunge. It's tremendously helpful for release throughout the body. Both are really important. All right, so if you'd like to do more lunge, please take a little bit of time on your own and then rejoin us. Okay? All right. So what I suggest from Tadasana at this point is to take your legs a little bit wider. And either with your hands on the rim of your pelvis or arms just dangling, whatever works better for you, we're going to circle the pelvis to release the lower spine by moving the pelvis a little bit. Make sure your knees are released. Right? I always like to imagine that I'm drawing a circle on the floor with my tail. Yeah. And my intention is to create a smooth circle. Smooth circle. Yeah. A creaky floor and a smooth circle, yes. It's hard not to have a creaky floor in this space. Okay, so go one way, go the other way. Right? And track the experience of that smoothly circling pelvis down through the legs, down into all the little weight shifts that are occurring brilliantly through your feet. Great. If you want to get really fancy, you can try to do a figure 8. It's good for the mind as well. Yeah, again, you might use the image that the tailbone is creating the movement. Yeah. And if you're tremendously good at doing the figure 8 in one direction, try the other. Yeah. Good. All right. And then maybe just pause in the middle with the legs wide, knees a little soft. And let's do one more forward bend with the legs quite wide. So knees soft, drop down, using the head as a weight, as a lead, all the way down. Right? So just as in the basic standing forward bend, just as in down dog, the heavier the head, the more release in the upper spine. The more I really feel my feet settling into the floor and my legs releasing, the more I'm giving the lower spine the opportunity to let go. When you're ready to come up, maybe walk your feet underneath you, about hip width apart. Roll up, and a lovely counter pose might be a small standing back bend. And if that doesn't suit, anything else that works for you. Yeah, with the arms, without the arms. Yeah, see what feels more comfortable for your standing back bend. Sure, reaching one arm at a time, standing back bend. Yeah, great. Okay. Please bring yourself back down to the ground. Choose your position for Shavasana. So just as a reminder, Shavasana in this approach means I'm comfortable and fully restful. So your Shavasana can be on your back, with your limbs long, with your limbs in any configuration that's comfortable, bent or long. Could be on your belly. Okay. All right, so let's go back to where we started. Feel the curve of your skull, the top of your spine resting into the ground. Your neck gently easing away from the floor. Your thoracic spine curving elegantly down to touch the ground. Your lumbar spine gently curving away. Your sacrum curved, heavy, touching the ground. And that curve just continuing out through the end of your tail. Be with your body, be with your spine, be with your breathing. Rest for as long as you'd like.